Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'd like to welcome to the office today Bano Sheikh, who's an ACCA member. She's a fellow member, and it's a real treat to have Bano here because I've known Bano for over 20 years, and she started off her journey from Lahore as a trainee, and she qualified, and it's really exciting. She's voluntarily visiting the office today in her personal capacity. So whilst we've shared with you Bano's profile, and and she's a partner at KPMG in the UK, I need to stress that she's here in her personal capacity, and her journey that she's going to share with you is from her personal point of view.
Yes.
So it's not a KPMG endorsed interview.
Yep.
So bear that in mind when you do ask your questions later on. So Bano, welcome home, welcome to Lahore. It's great to have you, and I think from my point of view, there is lots of young members out there. So we've got about 14 members listening, and we're going to have both young men and women listening. So I think your career journey is relevant to both.
Yeah.
It's not just relevant to young women, but I think it's also exciting for young women because if they have a role model, that they can identify with, that's always great.
Absolutely. So firstly, thank you for having me over, Aisa. And it did feel like coming home.
Good.
So remember, ACCA is where I started my journey straight after A-levels nearly 22 years ago.
Yes.
And it was the best thing that I think I decided to do. Right? At that time when I was planning to do or decide on a career path, my father said, why don't you do just a BCom or a graduate scheme and then do something else? Because that's the easier option for a woman in our culture. And I said, no, but there's this qualification called ACCA, let's explore that more.
Yes.
And that's how it started. And I started the journey in ACCA as a student, when at a time when we didn't have places where we could go and get our qualification or education done. There was a couple of classes we used to have with scans at that time, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But from there onward, it was more of a self journey.
Right.
And 22 years down the road, I'm a partner in the UK.
Fantastic.
And yes, the roots here is, the reason I asked to volunteer and come speak here was the fact that, like me at that time, there were very few people who you could go for mentorship, leadership, or even understand what is it that they're doing is right or wrong. So that's why I thought it's a good idea to be here, to be able to share my journey and probably leave a few people inspired.
Brilliant, fantastic. Well, I hope we can inspire a lot of people who are listening online. And one of the first things I thought I'd ask you is, your career now spans approximately 20 years, like I said.
Yeah.
You first visited the ACCA offices when you were just an A-level student.
Yeah, that's right.
And then that journey has now brought you to a point where you're very much at a leadership level.
Yeah.
You are a partner at KPMG. So how would you sum up that journey? And then we'll dive into other things. But I think for young people in Pakistan, if they can visualize that, because it's a very senior position you're at. You've got a lot of responsibility. You just told me that you audit, FTSE 50 companies. So how would you describe that journey?
So I would describe my journey to partnership very challenging. Challenging, scary as well. But a lot more than that, it was very rewarding. So once you decided something that you want to do this, you want to have a career path all the way to partnership. You have to be quite resilient to be able to take up the challenges. You have to overcome all the fears that will scare you, and then obviously you have to be proud of every milestone that you hit. So for me, that was extremely important to realize. And as you went through the journey, because as I said, started my career in Pakistan, went into Middle East, and then landed up in the UK, which became my home. So I've been in the UK for 14 years now, right? So it wasn't an easy journey, and I've worked across US, Europe, and Dublin, and London, and Scotland. It wasn't an easy journey. So what I will say is, yes, it's been a very challenging and a very scary journey.
So the first starting point, I mean, when you you went from here to the Middle East, and that's normally a journey for most Pakistanis and Sri Lankans and Bangladeshis as well, that they choose the Middle East because the Middle East, obviously, it's a Muslim country.
Yes.
There's diverse nationalities there, so it's an obvious choice.
Yeah.
Should it always be like that? Should that be the starting point?
So I think it can be the right starting point, because what happens is once you've been working in your hometown, like I started my career in Fort Roads, now part of EY, Lahore, and when you're jumping from one place to another, if you go to a very different place altogether, which would be like a UK or a US, I think it would overwhelm you much more quickly, and you would like to probably give up on your dreams far too quickly. But once you have a different landing space like the Middle East, you have a lot more expats there, 70% of the population there are expats. You see a lot of your kind of people, it becomes easier to integrate. And then once you're a bit more settled with the change, because the initial change is not easy to take. Once you know, it's easy enough to take this change, you're much more, I would say, you will take more risks and jump the gun and do something completely different, not just to the UK or US, you'll probably end up going to the New Zealand and Australia as far as that. So I think going from Pakistan or India or Bangladesh or Sri Lanka to the Middle East is a good starting point. From my perspective, and then you keep changing. But I guess now the landscape is changing quite a bit. So there's always scarcity about resources, especially good accountants. So I have also seen people directly going from a home country like Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, or even the Bangladeshis, and they are directly hired into the UK firm or even to the US firms. And I guess the Big Four or the accountancy profession is pretty open to that change, and they are bringing people through directly. Middle East was a personal choice for me, because at that point in time when I was making that swap, I was also going through a personal kind of a change in lifestyle, and I've lived in Dubai before as a childhood. I thought it was easier for me to go back to a place where I have friends, and then start my journey from there. So after that 1 year when I was comfortable there, I took the leap of faith and I ended up in Scotland. Where half the people I knew said, where the hell is Scotland? It's easier to see UK on the map or London as the base point, but nobody would end up going to Edinburgh.
And how do these opportunities, land up with you? Does one have to be proactive in searching for new opportunities? Because I think that's the most stressful thing for a lot of young ACCAs, that when they network, and they network so that they can become aware of opportunities. So how did you network, and how did these opportunities come your way?
I think if I tell you honestly, it's easier said than done. So number one, people usually think that, oh my God, like somebody should come to me because I'm qualified. That's not the way how things work. You have to manage your career. You should know the market. You should know what's out there, right? And then you need to have a strategy and a plan in place, right? So you have to firstly understand what are the availability on social media, what are the institutions which are available, where can I apply? Keep an open eye on LinkedIn, keep an open eye on social media. Now I think at the time when I started my career, social media was not that active. You didn't have a lot of LinkedIn jobs coming onto your profile and stuff like that. But now that's pretty easy to do. So I think the ownership lies with an individual to take an honest decision that I want to work somewhere and then pursue it properly. So you have to be very socially active. You have to network. You have to go to events organized where there is like a drive for hiring people. You have to do all of that because you have to understand the market. People think it's easy to go and find a job. Like, whenever even now people talk to me, they said, oh, you are a partner, things would have been easy. I said, like, you just see the tip of the iceberg. What went below that, you haven't even realized, right?
So a lot of young people here, we've got some now in the audience, is they say, well, I really need a job, but I can only get those jobs through connections,
Yes.
So there's this myth, I would call it a myth, because, and I'm one of those individuals who believe that you have to work hard and network in order to achieve success. What would you say to those young people who believe that there are barriers in their way, which are somehow connected with you need to know somebody?
I think most of the barriers are internal barriers. It's not an external barrier, I would say, to everything. There is enough opportunity. You just need to keep exploring it. Doesn't mean that the first day you've qualified, you'll get a job. Doesn't mean you'll get the job you really like, but it's a milestone that you have to set, right? A lot of people say, no, I will not get to X to Z point because I'm not sponsored, I'm not mentored, I don't have a connection. But tell me how many of us actually had parents who did not, who achieved a lot in their life, but did it without all of that as well, right? So now it's easier to always have somebody else to blame, that I don't have a sponsor, I don't have a connection, but actually not saying what else can I do to improve my way to the top or to a job that I want to do. So I'm a big fan of the fact that you need to control your destiny. Right? Controlling destiny doesn't come from connection, right? It comes from your willpower to make sure you're doing the right thing. That's my thing.
Yeah, that's great. So, and there's a lot of talk nowadays about linear career development and non-linear. So either we're expected, to go in a linear way to progress and keep growing and
within an organization.
But now there's non-linear. A lot of jobs now are freelancing jobs or or work from home, and there's all sorts of now models on how you can be employed. What would you say to young people about, if they have an expectation that I will have a linear career, but then it turns out to be non-linear?
Yeah, I guess that's more about the way even most of the business models, even in organizations, are changing. They give you that linear curve, but then also give you the flexibility of working from home or changing your full-time employment to a part-time employment or becoming a contractor. Those kinds of options are even coming through there. But if you ask me in terms of a linear progression, like working through one organization and then thinking that will just take you through to the top, do you think? I personally think you need to keep challenging your mindset. Yeah. So I, in my personal career, have done audit, have done consulting. I've also done a global, secondment with the leadership group where I learned about fintech and integrating business. So I think you have to keep stretching and challenging yourself to be able to have a career of your choice. So at the moment, as I said, I'm not just an audit partner, but I'm also leading the technology agenda for financial services and audit in KPMG. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't have the chance to do what I did, which was progressing in the same firm where I was working before KPMG, but doing different things and adjusting and being flexible to what roles come my way. Yeah. So again, that comes to the main point again is, do you want to grow in the same organization? That's fantastic. But can you just keep growing in one area without having the holistic view? To become a leader, you need to have the business view as well. One singular view of where you're working. So from my perspective, you have to have that flexibility. And I will tell people, I totally understand. We always, at a leadership level, we're discussing that the workforce is becoming much more agile. They want change, they want flexibility, they want to have time for their family, they want to go traveling. They have all those ambitions that probably when we were growing up, we didn't have. So, and everybody's becoming quite conscious of it. It's good to do all of that, to have all those ambitions, but obviously once you're in the start of your career, you will have those choices to make, which are going to balance you towards your leadership role. So I would say people who would like to have a linear, which is just working towards one ambition, staying with the firm, that's a great option. I did that, working with, I worked with EY before joining KPMG for nearly 12 years.
Yes.
Yeah. But that didn't mean that I was just doing audit. I did a lot more things. Yeah. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to stretch yourself? That is what is important.
So, one of the sort of burning questions, especially around women entering, the profession, and having that sort of independence as well to leap into overseas markets or jobs away from home, because your parents were here in Pakistan. Yes. I know your dad, and he was always sort of very proud of the work that you were doing. But then, you need parental support, you need mentors who support. What about the advice to young women who want to grow their careers, want the support from their peer groups and their parents as well, to careers within the country but also abroad? I know quite a few ACCA women like yourself, members, who've gone from here to the Middle East. They've lived out there, they've grown their careers. So what would your advice be to them? Because it still seems to be a tough choice.
It is indeed a very tough choice. And you have to be very conscious of that tough choice. So when I was leaving Pakistan to start my career in the Middle East, my father was, like any father, was very hesitant. How will this work for your personal journey being marriage and kids and everything? And I said, like, would you have to ask the same question to your son? When the time is right, it will happen, right? So if you don't have those questions for your son, let's not have those questions for me. And I know it's your fear. He didn't mean it in a bad way. Parents always look for your best interest, nothing else. But I would say for young women, I strongly recommend that they have a good relationship with their parents, so they can convince them, right, that what they want to do is not just for the benefit, but the benefit of the family at large. Right? The benefit of the family at large is not just the fact that your family which will come through, but also the impression it will leave in the generations that come through. That is also a very important point to consider. Second thing I would say is when you are moving abroad or when you're moving countries, parents are most scared for the well-being of their child, the safety network and everything. So I guess you have to take them through the journey. So very recently, somebody joined one of the KPMG, one of the firms in the UK, and when she was transiting to London from Pakistan, her father came to drop her. So not everybody can afford that luxury that a father would come to drop their daughter off. But I thought that was a very refreshing thing for me to see, that a father has taken a conscious decision to bring his daughter and engrave her into the system there. But again, my advice to the girls are, don't give up on your dreams. If you have a good ambition and if you have a good job which you can scale up to, it's a good opportunity, convince your parents, tell them it's a journey. You would also inspire from it, but wider benefit of the family, and go for it. And you have to take calculated risks. That doesn't mean you have to fight or go against the will. But parents are also very, they enjoy kids being successful, regardless that it's a daughter or a son. I think my father enjoys my success more than my brother's success. That's a separate issue. But I think if he was here in the room today, he will always say to any father that if you see this potential in your daughter, let her go. Trust in her and be with her. That's one thing we will do.
Fantastic. So another question that I'd like to ask you is, that when you go through this journey, a 20-year journey, and there's always ups and downs, and one is always becoming mature in terms of one's emotional intelligence. You learn about yourself, and you learn about your own feelings, and then you gradually learn about others as well. So talk to us a little bit about emotional intelligence. How do you manage your own emotional intelligence or your quotient? And how do you know what buttons to push on others as well? So that you can have a collaborative working relationship with them. And eventually, because you've got many direct reports, I imagine. At the end of the day, you need to get work out of people. You need to meet deadlines and targets. So you need to understand, people's emotional makeup. So how do you achieve that as well?
So I think emotional intelligence is also something you learn, or you by mistake, by default, by making mistakes that you do, you learn about it as well. But this is one thing you cannot automate. This is something you have to learn and invest in. Right? So one thing I would say on emotional intelligence is, as you grow as a professional, you'll meet different kind of people, different style of people. So you have those styles which are analysts, leadership, people who are intuitive, people who just want to get up. So you have to become quite used to understanding different social styles
Right.
of people.
Right.
Yeah. So that is another way of looking towards your emotional intelligence. Yeah. Second thing that you need to do is emotional intelligence is something you need to continuously work on. Right? So we even at partner level, we've always been taught how to be people smart. Yeah? Right. You don't need to be people smart when you're working on a machine.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But when you're leading teams, when you're connecting with clients, so when you're working with the board levels and you're going presenting, you're doing audit tenders, you're doing all of that business sale. If you don't have that emotional intelligence, you won't know when you're losing the plot with people. You won't understand what's happening. How do you connect with them? So that is one thing you will always need to be on top of.
Right.
So you have to actually, on a daily basis, make some time for that.
Yeah.
Brushing up your emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
I personally do. I have to take time because sometimes you are so caught up in your own emotions. Right. On delivery, on targets, on pricing, right. On leading people and everything, that you become so overburdened that you think, oh my God, now if somebody comes with an issue, I won't be able to resolve it, right? So you have to take a step back, go into a quiet corner and work on your emotions as well. So because it's your behavior which will impact the behavior of the other people.
Because that's an important point, because it's not just about managing people. Very early on, a lot of young ACCA members and students are obviously, can get frustrated very quickly. If their careers are not meeting their expectations, that can be frustrating and that can have negative energies on you. How do you turn those negative moments into positive moments?
Yeah, I think for me, if you ask me, and I've always said that into a coaching class, so I'll say that to here as well, that it wasn't a smooth sailing ride for myself. I went through ups and downs. I had good bosses, bad bosses. I had good teams, bad teams. At various points in life, I was thinking, oh my God, I've not gotten this up to now. I should have been a senior manager by now. I should have been a director. So all those frustrations come and go. All the challenges you will have to face on a daily basis. But every time you fail, I do this. I have a logbook. Yeah, it's a blank diary where every day I write a little success story of what happened today, which is good. Yeah. Then the day I fail, I close my eyes and just breathe in and walk through my journey of success. It calms me down.
Right. Fantastic.
Right? It calms me down. It brings me back into my center. That not every day would be a good day.
Yeah.
It cannot be. To be honest, it will become boring. Life will be very boring otherwise. So it has to be. You have to walk down your memory lane. You have to keep motivating yourself. And usually what happens are and I would probably say that to all the students out there as well, members, that we like to blame. It's easy to deflect failures. It happened because I was attending a friend's wedding. It happened because this was happening. I didn't pass my exam because I was busy with my mother or father. These are things, it's easy failures that we work towards. But we shouldn't be doing that. The challenge comes from within. The success comes from within.
Right.
Yeah. And you have to overcome your failure through within as well. Look inside and make sure that your inside is quite clear. So, when you walk, somebody once said to me that when you're walking towards a destination, there'll be a lot of dogs barking right and left. And if you're distracted by the dogs, your destination will keep getting further and further.
Yeah, I'm really scared of dogs. So one of the questions that arises from that is, every time you look at the next stage of your career, and every one of us looks at, the next stage, and we think, okay, well, there's continuous professional development that we have to do, CPD. If you remember, you must, complete a certain number of hours of CPD. Now, you can either look at it in a generic way, or you can say, well, what weaknesses do I have that, or, where I can sort of get some development or some coaching that can help me to get to the next stage. Did you approach your own learning and training in that way?
Yeah.
So, we've got some members here, we've got this thing online. If somebody's a manager, they want to be a senior manager, how should they then go about identifying, their training needs, in other words, and then give them that capability to step to the next level?
Yeah. That's a really good question. So as I said, I like taking ownership of my career. It's also my personal development. So like when I moved to the UK, I was a minority within a minority. So I'm a very Pakistani Muslim loud person, like I am. And they had to accept me. So I had to understand what are the things I need to learn from. Is that enough?
Yeah, that's an earthquake. So the audience is, I'll just let the audience know that there's a small earthquake happening in Lahore at the moment. So the alarm's gone off, we're just going to walk out, we'll join the audience.
I think that's it.
Well, much is serious, okay. I'm not used to being on camera.
Yeah, you don't.
I think you could maybe make an announcement.
Yeah. So you let me know when. Okay. So we're all back now. Everybody's safe and sound. It's just a small tremor. So let's just continue. And I would like the online audience to perhaps note down the questions they'd like to ask Bano. That's really important. So please do write down your questions, share them with Haroon, who's monitoring the questions online. And we may be able to take some on audio as well, Haroon. So great. So I think, where were we?
We were talking about learning, personal
Yeah,
learning.
so, that whole CPD,
Yeah.
mentoring, coaching, that side of things.
So I guess your question was quite interesting in terms of if a manager wants to proceed to become a senior manager.
Yeah.
And, where do we go to understand what is your learning? So I think the best starting point is self-reflection.
Right. Okay.
You know what you want to learn.
Yeah.
What are your shortcomings? What is your feedback that you've received? Maybe on your people skills or growth skills or operational excellence. So if you say this person is not a great boss because of X, Y. So you have to discipline yourself. You know what are your self-learning things. The other thing is on a professional academia side. I think ACCA website has a lot of other courses as well, which is for a CPD accreditation. And I went through it once just to see what is out there, because being in a Big Four, you always have a very big learning catalog from which you can pick up the courses you want to go on. But when I saw ACCA, it has a fantastic webcast service as well. So people should actually go and see what is it that they want to learn. Second thing is, the other best way to understand what is it and how do they want to proceed to the next level is their bosses is also a good way of understanding what are the good traits they have, what are the bad traits they have, what are the things they're doing well, and what are the things they need to improve on. So always on probably every year base, you should have a kind of a personal business case of how do I want to progress, and what are the things I need to develop on. That's the best thing to do. People actually think somebody will come and recognize them and take them through that journey and say you're ready to be someone. But are you ready to be someone? Have you done your homework? It's very important. So in my case, I had done, like when I was a manager, there was a course called Accelerated Leadership Program offered to assistant managers to managers, and we didn't have anybody from Scotland on that program. So I said, why can I not be put to it? Nobody has ever asked me about it. So I asked, and that was an 18-month program. It helped me really develop my softer skills and my presentational skills. So that really helped me throughout my journey. And when I became a senior manager, I decided I wanted to do work on big tenders. So again, that was more about speaking, more about listening. So I had to develop listening skills, which is very kind of non-existent in us, in a culture we are growing in, because we've always been told what to do. Right?
We're always waiting to express our own opinion. Instead of listening to others. We're waiting for our turn to speak.
And the best thing I learned from that course is never start yourself from a no. This can't happen. Everything is always possible. So always start on a positive, because it releases a positive energy. Then everything will become easy. So listening became a big thing for me. It helped me as a people leader. And how important it is to listen, even when things are not the way it should be.
A bit of a light-hearted question now. When you landed in Scotland,
that surprised me.
Well, the weather, but could you understand this Scottish accent?
No. The first year I remember, I was working on one of the bank audits there, and that was in Glasgow, not even in Edinburgh. So they have a very, very heavy accent. And half the meetings I used to keep nodding, and I used to think, what are they saying? Do I understand anything that they're saying? And it really took me a year, 18 months to understand the language, the same English language I have learned and spoken all my life. And I thought, no, this can't be right. But it is something. And same way if you go to the US as well, if you go, down south, language, their accent is so heavy.
That's right. And nowadays, we're living in the 21st century. We're living in a world, where there's a lot of turmoil. We're facing, some groups face a lot of discrimination. How do you overcome this? Because you've done a lot of work recently on combating, Islamophobia. You've done a lot of work on ensuring that Muslim women can be, make a breakthrough in careers. So a lot of that. So there may be a lot of views out there that are looking at the world outside and saying, look, it's not possible for me. There is growing resentment in those countries, and I may not be able to succeed. So how do you overcome those fears, if you like?
So again, it's for me, all of that is more of internal fears. So whenever I used to go, I used to think I'm a minority within a minority. I'm a woman, and I'm a brown woman, and I'm a Muslim woman. How will I be taken? But to be honest, once you are comfortable in your skills, and that would mean that you should know you even to become a partner. Even if people say you are the best diversity candidate, because diversity is big on everybody's agenda. Remember one thing: if you don't have the basic knowledge, skill set, and experience, you will still not make it to the list.
Right. That's really important.
You will not make it to the list. So you have to show excellence in what you do. You have to have the people skills. You need to have the the experience under your belt to be able to say, now I'm the right candidate and I should be put forward. Right. So that is very important to say. The other thing is most of the fears I've said before are internal fears. I cannot do this. We start with that statement. I don't look my best. I cannot do this. How will I do this? If you go through the situation that I have been through, people have asked me questions that you would expect people to ask. Oh, your fasting is such a long journey. You're fasting 18 hours. Will it impact your experience or your working day? It really doesn't. It's about your faith mechanism. Yeah, you're doing this because it's part of you. Yeah. So if you embrace yourself as you, then the fear should go away. Yeah. So for myself, I haven't felt that I was discriminated on any basis because I'm brown, Muslim, or what. And I'm pretty loud into doing my, bringing my beliefs to the table. So I recently went for my Umrah. I announced it at the leadership. They asked me the question, oh, what is the Umrah? I know you thought there was Hajj you do. And I said, no, this is something we do like this. And they were quite interested to know. Because when you bring a positive flavor to the table about what you are proud of, everybody becomes positive.
Yes.
So that's what I would say.
Fantastic. One of the questions I wanted to ask you, there's a lot of young people, a lot of young ACCA members and students who are looking at, starting their own businesses. So when we ask them, what would you like to do as a future career? Would you like to go into business for yourself? A lot of the responses at a recent survey was 35% of students said they wanted to start their own businesses. Yeah. Now, one of the conditions for being an ACCA member, you know it, I know it, the members here, you have to pass exams, you have to do your ethics, and you have to gain 3 years of work experience. So work experience means you're going to be supervised by another qualified person. What is your advice? Did you ever want to go into business for your own? And what's your advice to young members who say, I'd rather start up my own business, or a student who wants to do that?
Yeah, so every day I'm thinking of starting a business. Every day the idea comes to my mind and I want to start a business and make my millions and be rich overnight. Do a big IPO and say, look, I've done my business, I've sold it to somebody third party, that's it. Every day I have that idea. But for me, it's very important to finish your qualification. And doing exam is not your qualification. Getting that professional experience is your qualification as well, right? And I would always say to people, you have to have a proper degree, or you have to have a proper base under your belt. You have to complete your qualification. If somebody says to me, I'm an ACCA, I would expect him to be her to be an ACCA plus member B with the holistic experience as well. I would say I actually welcome the idea of people being, starting their own entrepreneur. It's a great thing to have. And it's a skill set that once you get the hang of, there's a brilliant skill set. Definitely go for it. You want to start up a business, don't be scared of a failure. But my request to you is please finish your qualification. Make sure you are a member, that you have everything under your belt, that at any point in time you think you want to do something or come back to your profession, you're not frustrated. You're not frustrated. And to be honest, even as a leader or a business leader, you need to have that basic skill set, which comes from doing the experience. But once you have been through the grinding of working under somebody, of knowing who are the good bosses, bad bosses, what are the good things you have learned. That makes you a holistic person.
I agree.
It gives you a very big picture, which people will miss.
I agree with you. I think because running a business is a 360-degree responsibility, and if you've been an individual who's just focused on one segment, whether that be finance, there's whole other lots of functions where you haven't had that experience. But if you are somebody who's had a bit of work experience, been to an organization, even if it's an SME, you would understand the entire 360 degrees. And then you could take that experience away with you, rather than just purely having the experience of finance only.
Exactly. And again, as I said, you can be a finance leader or you could be a leader. And to be a leader, you need to have that wider experience under your belt. You cannot just be one person and you can just work across all spectrum of work. Right?
But you can be entrepreneurial in your job, can't you?
Definitely, definitely you can be. And like partnership is also all about entrepreneurship, right? So it is like running my own business, right? So, but I can only learn, now I'm in a capable position to be able to learn the business, lead a business and grow the business, because I have so much experience of working in different segments of business. So the experience that I had in the global office, I would say, was like a mini MBA, like, doing an online live MBA kind of working across marketing, integration, leadership, people skills, everything. So I would say, yes, you need all of that if you want to be an entrepreneur. You cannot just have a siloed mind that you've done 11 exams or whatever number of 14 exams and you're fit to be doing a business. It's a learning curve. It's a learning curve to be successful.
Bano, thank you very much for sharing all of that. And I think to the online audience, it really is an example of somebody achieving, success through hard work, through identifying opportunities, through self-realization and self-awareness, and that whole, when you're down, you look at your successes. I think that's really a useful piece of advice, even for me, So let's try and open it up now to the audience online as well, and to a small audience we've got here. Bano's going to be in Pakistan, in Lahore, for a few weeks. So maybe, if we get a chance later on to invite her back, we could do a wider online interview as well.
Absolutely.
So those of you online, this is a great opportunity, because we've got somebody here who's from Lahore, from Pakistan, and at a very early age, she's achieved tremendous success. So, it's a great opportunity for you to learn. So please do put in your questions. I just asked my colleague here, can we take any questions now?
Sure. Mohammad Kashif asks, please suggest for practicing students in Pakistan for current corporate environment of competition.
Competition? Corporate environment.
What is the question? I didn't understand. So he's practicing and he wants to clear about the question.
Say it again.
Please suggest for practicing students in Pakistan for current corporate environment of competition.
Right. So A is a student. And I think he's talking about competitiveness in landing a job, I assume. So that, there's lots of candidates. You're in competition in the corporate world. What advantage can you possibly have over others? I hope that's what he means.
I hope so too. I'm not pretty clear, but I guess one thing on that of landing a job is, what is your differentiation factor? Right? Mostly, most people, when one thing I would say to most people, and I wanted to say that, is work on your CV. Your CV needs to be crisp and clear. People have a lot of experience on the CV which doesn't really reflect off the knowledge. So please have a nice, well-written CV. Mostly, it takes you 70 seconds to actually assess from a CV whether I want to hire or not hire that person.
Right. Okay.
That's what the HR have said. The first 70 seconds, if we like
really?
70 seconds. If you see the CV, you decide whether you want to interview or not to interview. Okay. So that is one thing. You will always face competition, even if the supply of jobs are there, the demand, like you think there is enough supply chain there, and I can find myself a job. That's never going to be the case. That's why it's a highly paid profession. You will always have that friction. You will always face competition. So you have to be, you need to know your competitive edge. What is it that you're going to bring to the table? And it has to be a few self-reflecting points. Not, I will be able to work 10 hours more than the other person. It has to be self-reflecting points. I'm a self-starter. I can do a better job. Why? You have to have examples as well. It has to be crisp and punchy. So I always say to people, please do not pick up CVs online and just tailor it for yourself. Does it actually tell me about you?
Right. So you have to be able to recall, things that you've done that illustrate, why you are fit for that job.
Absolutely. So people always standardize the CV and send it to 10,000 jobs. And it may not be fit for those 10,000 jobs.
Right. Okay.
You have to update your CV to reflect it for that job relevance. And it doesn't have to match 100%.
Okay.
It has to be even 50% for somebody to show interest.
Now, you mentioned LinkedIn as well.
Yeah.
You know, this is not a plug for LinkedIn, but it's a great platform.
It is a great
You know,
platform.
Yeah. So, you know, but what's the best sort of way of using it?
So the best way of using it is once you go, I guess it offers you some job searches as well. Engines, if you have a better profile, it will start picking up on certain things on yourself as well.
Right.
It'll start floating jobs that may be relevant to
Right.
you.
Okay.
So you have to actually have a very good LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
I always say to people,
Yeah.
that your LinkedIn profile has to be relevant, up to date.
Up to date. Yes.
Yeah. For people to be aware that this talent exists out there.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And people are very active on Instagram, on Facebook, posting.
Yeah.
Why can't they not do that on a professional
Okay.
network?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's great.
I must say that today I should have posted my LinkedIn. I'm going for an interview. I forgot about it, but I'll do a post.
Yeah.
And these are things that you have to self-reflect.
Okay.
It's not about overselling yourself.
Yeah.
It's about selling yourself.
Yeah. Anything else?
Gurrez Asad Khan asks, how much experience is required to be considered for freelance services in UK market?
Right. So I don't know what he means by
By
freelance
freelance.
services. I'm assuming this term freelance is now used a lot for online jobs.
Oh.
You know, that you can sit here in Pakistan and do work as a freelancer remotely.
How much opportunity he's saying? To be honest, I won't be clear. I won't have visibility on it because I've not looked for those kind of opportunities within the firm or outside. I'm not sure. There must be opportunities for sure, but
He just added audit sector. By UK market, he meant audit sector. How much experience, freelance experience, would you need to be working in an audit sector to join an audit firm?
to join an audit firm. Audit firms usually don't pick up people if they have not fully qualified, and qualification comes from both passing the exams and also being a member. Yeah, so you have to have the experience. Then your journey towards an audit, becomes you join as an experienced hire in more firms.
Yeah.
So if he's saying that you are just doing freelancing work, as long as it adds towards his membership, it's accredited to make him a member.
Yeah.
That should be okay.
Yeah, I think that's always going to be a challenge if you've done a lot of freelancing stuff and you're trying to get that experience signed off for your membership. Membership requires, supervision from somebody qualified. So
Does that really?
Yeah, so it's best. I would advise that person, online to write to ACCA, write to Haroon, and share their experience, and we can then guide them as to whether this is sufficient for getting membership and then getting audit work.
All right. Mudassir Ansari asks, why audit firms do not give a lot of opportunities to anybody already pursuing career in the corporate or public sector who wants to later pursue in the middle or later stage of his career when they didn't get experience initially in audit sector?
Right. So somebody who's done probably their training in industry.
Okay, in industry.
Or they're working in industry, but they want to re-enter audit. Is that possible?
It is possible. So I'm not sure how because in the hospitality sector.
Yeah.
And also I'm talking from my experience in the UK. And the NHS sector, the sector that we have there, we have people coming from that industry-specific knowledge into the audit firm and then doing audits for those sectors.
Right.
So there are that movement between industry and back into audit. So I also know a very nice partner who was an extended assurance partner. He left the firm as a senior manager. He was working in a very big bank. Then he came back as a partner.
Yeah.
Because he had the right skill set to be a partner and be able to sell those services that we wanted. So there's always the movements that can happen. But is he asking at a very...
He meant if you could join audit firm later on in your life, in the middle career stage, if you have not gotten the opportunity in the initial
if you're a qualified member, you mean, You've taken industry experience.
Initially, you started in
I'm assuming he's a qualified member
Yeah, from industry.
from industry.
from industry.
And you want to come back into the audit firm.
Yes.
And if you have the right skill set, you should be able to get it if there's a demand for what you're doing. So if you're coming back, I don't think so there's a barrier to entry.
So let's sort of dive into that a little bit. Where in the audit function within audit firms, so the audit teams in your firm, there are going to be qualified people from the profession, and non-professionals as well. You know, there may be MBAs in the team, etc. So it's not, you know, the team's quite diversified.
Yeah, very diverse.
In terms of qualifications and experience.
And in my team as well, you have people who have worked in industry has come back into audit firms. Right? Especially like in our, so we do some very specific kind of extended assurance engagement, where we deliberately actually put people out who worked in the industry and have the relevant experiences. So it's not uncommon. I don't know about Pakistan because I've been away from the country a lot. Is it uncommon here?
Well, I think here, you know, is fairly orthodox. You have the audit function in the firms, whether they're big four or smaller. Those audit functions tend to remain sort of staffed by individuals who are from, you know, have an audit background.
Yes.
You know, I think here it's probably the other way around. People want to get into industry now. You know.
But that's a trend you'll have. So once you qualify, remember one thing, and you've practiced in a firm, and you've done the long hours, you've done everything. The moment they get to qualification, everybody wants to exit and try the industry. I've seen that not just here, but everywhere.
Okay. The other thing I'd probably ask on behalf of a lot of young people is they feel that unless they get into a big four, the doors are closed for them. That's, you know, I'm talking now from 20 plus years of experience, that if you fail to get into a big four, you know, that's it. You know, what's your advice to them? Because it's surely in your network, you must have, you know, a lot of people who are not from big four.
No, absolutely. And even in the UK, a lot of my colleagues who are chartered accountants from Pakistan, and they are working in big six. You know, BDOs and Grant Thornton and other firms as well, right? Big six or big 10. They're not actually from the big four, right? Some of them have come from firms which I've not even heard of in Pakistan. Like koi chote company, that just names. I don't know. So is that an audit firm? No.
Yes.
That's fine. As long as they had their qualification completed, they're chartered accountants. Full stop. Right? If you have if you've done your ACCA, you've done your hours, and you've done your membership, you're an ACCA.
So the rock is get qualified.
Get qualified. Get your membership sorted. So it doesn't mean, and then you develop your skill sets. If it's there, you're talented. People will hire you.
That's right. Absolutely.
People will hire you.
Absolutely.
So the four, if people are thinking your career starts only with a big four, that's not the reality. Most of the people I have seen, maybe at least maybe I'll say 30-40% people who have also migrated from Pakistan to the UK and who are in the professional network that I go to. They haven't had the big four experience.
Right. Let's get some more questions. Anybody from the audience would like to ask? Don't be shy. It can be any question that, you know, that can come into your mind.
I'd like to extend this part of the question. What's different about these Pakistani members who are not from big four relevant fields, big four firms, but still coming into UK and working at such with you in KPMG? What makes them different than others?
A very good question. So I think what would make them different, in my opinion, would be that they were ready to take up the challenge. They were motivated. They wanted to try, and they worked on themselves. Some of them had a lot of wealth of knowledge to share, right? Experiences of being in L&D, academia. A lot of people had an experience of working on very small scale client, but very effective workers. So you know, when you're working in a very big client, you have a lot of scope, big budgets to work towards. But those people could actually scale down a lot of that thing for me, say this can be done more effectively, more efficiently. So they did have those differentiating factors which made me then choose them to be part of our teams. Yeah. I remember one thing, that Pakistan, don't isolate that everything in Pakistan is like, no, this same dilemma also exists in the UK, that you have the non-Big Four people.
Yes.
Yes. Not everybody will get into a Big Four to be able to qualify as a ACCA member.
Yeah.
So we have people coming from very small firms there as well and joining the Big Four network.
Yeah. No, I've got a lot of friends who I trained with a medium-sized firm.
Yeah, medium-sized, small size.
They went into Big Four after qualifying.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have a question from Gurrez Asad, asking your opinion on pros and cons on working in audit sector and industry.
Look, pros and cons. At the moment, audit industry is highly regulated and in a lot of scrutiny in the UK at least. So we have the FRC reviews, which works on the audit, the quality of audit that we deliver on. So we audit. Working in audit can be quite stressful.
Yeah.
Very exciting, but full of complexities as well. And industry, the pros and cons of working in industry, I've not really worked in industry. I did for a little bit of time, 8-10 months in Pakistan. Industry gives you a very different perspective. So I would say people who are interested in expanding exposure, they can enjoy the industry experience as well. But there's no pros and cons of where you work. Pros and cons are, is it the right thing for you to do? That's where the pros and cons are. It's a personalized pros and cons. I can't say somebody who's a CEO is not doing a good job or it doesn't work, right? The pros and cons come, does it work for him or her?
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. So it's comparing apples to pears kind of a situation.
Yeah. Are there any more questions?
Online.
Okay.
So how do you manage the work and CPD requirements law, like working full day and then going for the CPD course,
So
and home as well?
Yeah, that home as well. Yeah, correct. So
Time management tips.
time management tips. Okay, so I guess always have a to-do list on a daily basis, and make sure you're taking it off, because it reduces your daily stress levels. Because the more stressed you are, the less delivery focused you become. It's my personal opinion. And the CPD requirements are increasing every day. You're working in audit, my God, the CPD requirements are massive.
Right.
Massive. Right. So for me, if I'm signing a US opinion, gas opinion, I'm signing a UK IFRS opinion, there are different requirements. So I'm always juggling with updating my training requirements, right? And then you have the personal requirement that you want to do a people skill course, or you want to go a coaching course, then you want to become a mentor, and all of that requires another. So you have to be very efficient in making sure you have a proper to-do list, and then you stick to it. And then you're not, so make sure time management actually comes from having a healthy mind and body. People always forget about that, I personally think. So make sure you have enough sleep, you eat well, and you exercise. Once you've done all those three, which is self-focused, the rest will come.
The Pakistanis just eat well.
Yeah.
They don't do the others.
Yeah. Sir, as a partner, you can't do that. Like, oh no, because to be honest, that's true. We eat well, but I eat a lot as well. And like every day since I've been back, regardless that I've had a bad, I've been suffering from food poisoning. I asked my father where did the paratha in the morning. So eating well is important, but exercising is double important. You need the kickstart in yourself, and people forget to do that. Half the people I feel are depressed because they don't exercise enough. One of my cousins, she said she's like early 50s. She's been suffering from arthritis, and I said, and she tells me, I walk every day for 15 minutes, and I said, Baji, like, come on, 24 hours, you sleep for 8 hours, you only sit for 10 hours in front of a TV, 15-minute walk, that's not the best approach. So I would say, please focus on well-being as well. If your well-being is okay, the rest will come. You will be able to manage a lot of things. The best example I'll give you is started my partnership in early part of January. First week of February. And 18th of May, I fell down and broke my shoulder in 2 days. I had to take a conscious decision to be ineffectively not work for 6 weeks and rest and recover. Okay? My bosses, the firm totally supported that. They said, we don't want a partial working person. We want you to be physically and mentally fit. And that meant my deadlines were delayed. A lot of things went in the background, but I had to do it. But now I'm in much better position that I've actually covered a longer journey after my recovery.
That's right. Yeah, because you phoned me up when you had that accident. I was very scared when you had that accident.
Yeah, absolutely. So well-being. Okay, focus on well-being.
So great. I think we'll wrap it up. I mean, my summary of Bano's story is that I think there's a lot of self in that. There's so much that you can probably ask others or look to others to support, etc. But I think, like me as well, I think you have to motivate yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You have to coach yourself, and you have to realize that at the end of the day, ultimately you're the one, you're responsible for yourself. And I think that's what's coming out from your story.
And I will wrap it up on that by saying one statement. Every day when I'm scared and every day when I'm facing a challenge, I stand up in front of the mirror, only say one thing, because it's more about a faith mechanism. I say to my problems, every day, I brush it off by saying, my God is bigger than my problems. My God is bigger than my problems. And then I start my day. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Bano, for sharing your story. Thank you. And I just want to thank the audience online as well. Great. Thank you so much for your questions. And you can join us for a cup of tea and some snacks. Ask Bano questions that you perhaps frightened to ask online. Great. Thank you.